105. Last week I said that episode was 105, but it wasn't. And let me just say that this is going to be a really interesting episode. We have with us Kelly with us, and we'll go through introductions in a minute. But before that, I just want to say the scams that we're seeing these days are just atrocious. Besides just AI slop and the decay of code that we see, and of course the assault on our profession and the folks that are in it, we're finding that there are others out there that are finding ways to steal your expertise and take advantage of you. So, without further ado, I just want to say that, as I said before, this is episode 105 of This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly newscast of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. I'm speaking way too fast today. My name is Alim Gafar. I'm streaming to you live from New York City, and my co-host is...
Everybody, my name is Dvorak, aka Storyteller CZ, coming to you live from Prague.
And with us today, we have...
Hi, I'm Kelly Copley. Probably know me as Copley KJ from forums and other sites around the web. I'm basically a code monkey, and that's about it.
And an open source contributor to the MeteorJS ecosystem.
A little bit.
So thank you for joining us today, Kelly. Really glad to have you. And with that, we'll get straight to the news. And Jan, fraud, my friend, fraud. Tell me about it.
Yes, so this has been around for a while, but for me it really started say a few weeks back when I got like emails coming like, oh, we have an opportunity for you, or we want to partner with you. And I've got quite a few of those once in a while, usually spam. But this one was very interesting because it looked like a job opportunity. So I've kind of read more into it, and as I read more into it, I was like, realized, wait a moment, this is not a job opportunity. This is inviting me to become a scammer. So that's, and I've posted the emails on X for everybody to kind of look at, and it's very insidious because it's kind of there's like we have clients that need your help, but and they use like this corporate lingo, but what they want from me is to go and sit on a technical interview for somebody else and pretty much pretend that I'm this other guy, do the technical interview, and then I'm going to get cut from that person's salary, which
so you're basically lending your expertise to some unqualified person,
yes,
so they can get a salary. And this is crazy.
Yeah, and this is not nothing new. I remember reading, so maybe 2 years ago or maybe last year, an article about how they've discovered in their company that the person that they hired wasn't actually the person that they interviewed. And there's like others, it's getting more sophisticated where you have fake resumes. That's another one. But you have even more that we have people actually lip syncing on interviews to somebody else, who isn't more of like an expert. And it has been increasing. And this is also, I'll take it from another side. It's not just the interviewees trying to scam you, but also the interviews, and like there's scams everywhere in this, which I was actually surprised that there are scam interviews but mostly I want to focus here on the fake resumes and all that stuff, and especially with the remote aspects of a lot of companies today. It's becoming more and more of an issue because you can hire somebody and actually never meet them in person.
So how do you deal with that in terms of your company as a virtual company?
Yeah.
How do you deal with qualifying people that are going to actually work with you, and making sure that you're not ending up paying, a grift.
Well, so I've changed our policy that from this point onward, I have to actually meet the person and have the interview in person so I can see what they are doing. Though our current team, we had our designer was hired virtually. And that's actually thing that this is before the really AIs took off. So
Yeah.
we had like a design assignment, and we said, okay, we're actually paying for you to do it because I want to be fair, because it was not like a trivial design assignment that I would just want them to quickly pull out, but I can also wanted to see what they are going to do for the money as well. So he performed the best and everything, and that's why I hired him, and we worked very well. But we did have a little bit of a scamming happening in the past, and so now it's really I have to know you. I have to know
Okay.
you. I have to know that you're a real person, that you're doing is a real job, and that's actually some of the responses that companies have to this is that
Mhm.
you have to show in person, no remote, like even if it's like a remote company, the first initial contact and everything needs to be in person. They need to actually see you working on it, uh, and they have to really you have to really show that you are who you are.
Yeah.
And this is because this is not just in this case for me I will actually be helping fraud, but it's also dangerous for the company, especially if the company is dealing with some sensitive information or sensitive data. So if you have somebody who is a fraud, they can get in, get that data, and then you don't really cannot track them down because everything that they put to you was fake. So
Yeah.
that is a problem. It's a security risk, but I think kind of changes the landscape as well going forward, uh, because this has been again an increasing problem. So in general, be aware, people. This is happening, and this is actually growing from what I can gather, especially if they are starting to reach out to me. Um, because another issue is if it's like a big corporation, once you
Mhm.
are in, to get rid of you takes months, maybe even years. So once you are in, you have a cushy job, and it's difficult to get rid of some people, especially in countries where there are a lot of employee protection laws. In America, it's much more easier. There's a lot of the times you can just fire somebody within an hour. But for example, in Europe, you can be stuck, with that person for a month once you decide to fire them and give them the notice.
Jeez, Kelly, what's your take on this? Have you encountered this?
So not this specifically, but I get probably 3 or 4 contacts a week from random Discord people that are in servers that, programming servers that I'm also in. And most of the time they want to use my different freelance profiles to, as them, and get
Wow.
work that way. And so it was sort of the same thing, but not really passing interviews, but freelancing as somebody else.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hope this doesn't continue. But I have a feeling it's going to, no matter what. But in any case, listen, folks, if you are watching and you like the content that we do at this channel, hit the like button. Share it with us. Let us know that you appreciate what we're doing, and it motivates us to continue. And with that, um, I want to you know bring you back to this survey that's done by Sasha Grief. There is a line in there that I thought was great. It says that it originally came out of a company whose motto was "Move fast and break things." It's ironic that React's approach could be summarized as slow and steady. So he's really talking about where the project has been over the last few years in terms of new features, its evolution, how it's growing. And for those of you, by the way, who have already taken the survey, that's great. Survey's still there, and this is actually a notice that it's still available. Now, it was only supposed to run between October 25th and November 25th, but we've discovered that you could still go and take the survey today if you want to. I don't know how much longer it's going to be like this, but if you haven't had a chance to yet and you're interested in doing so, I would say give it a go. On a bad day, it takes approximately 20 minutes to complete. And the aim of the survey, as they say, is to measure awareness and popularity of the React APIs, as well as libraries in the React ecosystem. So if you are using React, if you work with React, and you haven't done the survey yet, the input that you give on this is invaluable. And of course, the survey results gives us an aggregate view of what's going on in the rest of the world. And for those of us that are working with React, I shouldn't say us because I don't, but for those of you who are working React, then this could be very, very useful information about the direction in which it's going, what's popular, what's not, what's trending, what's emerging, and that could be very useful to you as you plan out your applications going forward. So deadline's expired officially, but it's still up and taking submissions. So go to it. All right. Have you already done the survey, Storyteller?
Yes, I've done it, and I was like really near the top when it came to knowledge and kind of
Okay.
usage of everything, or like the overall points on React,
right.
which was kind of surprising. So yeah, I love these surveys. They are very nice to quickly fill out, and very awesome when it comes to figuring out what is new, what I should learn, what I should look at, and kind of see, you can just by the question, by the different options, for example, with the different servers and other packages, then you can kind of sometimes find something interesting, or you can be like, oh, this is still around. So
are you using
that's
server-side components yet?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not working in Meteor, and I don't really have any use for it. In general, kind of feel like with each update, React is going away from what I need. So, and what works well with Meteor, and I think I've kind of feel this week in general, like with everything that I'm using, that it's time to kind of change things, that it's not working for me as it has worked the combination in the past. So I need to figure out what I need to change and adjust, and I'll have answer for that maybe later.
Kelly, how about you? I mean, you use React, right?
Oh yeah, I use it basically every day of my life.
Have you taken the survey?
I have. And honestly, there was probably way too much things that I had no idea what they were.
Okay.
But,
I guess it's a comprehensive survey.
It is. And, when you're working day to day in certain things, you don't have as much time to explore as you would like. So.
Sure. So was it useful from that point of view to see other things that are in the ecosystem that you weren't familiar with?
Oh, yeah. It does create a little bit of anxiety, though. Like there's all this other stuff out there that I can't possibly know that I probably should. So
some FOMO?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's true of these things altogether. Anyway, that is that with that. Hey, Storyteller, I think you've been going deep in Dune lately, in Dune World. What's going on there?
Well, I got my Spotify statistics for the year, and June was like in my top 5 albums that I have listened to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Uh, but this is actually, what was happening. We have another npm hack again,
Ugh.
and this is actually the second in a series of the sandworms attack. The Shai Hulud strikes again, as the socket.dev has reported, and this one was really insidious. It affected a lot of packages. So what it did, want it. Remember, I don't want to botch it because it's pretty much it got in via, for example, a pull request,
Mhm.
because a lot of packages run uh, pull requests on GitHub Actions or continuous integration, and through that, it went in, got your keys through that. Usually it was
Yikes.
like, just like under a minute or so, the PR was up before it was closed and the branch and everything deleted. But that was enough to get the keys, and then be able to pretty much hijack the package, kind of release a new version that was infected, and then uh, it went, pretty much to whatever installed it. It went through their machine, grabbing any API keys, especially to AI, other like GitHub Actions or like GitHub related. Of course, all the crypto wallets and
Yeah.
crypto keys
Oh, geez,
and
Louise.
everything. And it was very mean because, if you didn't have anything, it would delete your home folder. So if you,
Oh, yeah, that's
or
just
just delete
wrong.
your hard drive as well. So it's really, and then it uploaded actually all of that on your GitHub in like a Shai Hulud repository or something like that. So it was really bad. I highly recommend uh, reading the just the articles related to it, and also checking that the long long list of let me
I'm looking at
scroll
that right
down
now. It's
here.
oh my
uh
gosh. It's over
804.
843
Yes,
compromised um
packages.
repos. Is that what I'm reading here?
Oh, it's pack that's only for
Packages.
43 packages. Some of them are like mono repos. So um
Do they have a sense of which repo it started in?
uh I don't think so. I think it
Okay.
actually has like might have been multiple that it went. It wasn't just like one of them. Uh, so there's been like multiple attack. Posthawk was hit pretty bad.
Oh,
Uh, so really, go check it out. That's, for example, why you have the big red banner on the top of npm lately, that they are deprecating
Yeah.
old API keys and all that stuff. That's part of the you could say long-term difference, because this is not the first time this has struck. And it's actually Theo commented on it that the first version of Shahlut wasn't really that good, and he commented on all
Yeah.
the possible uh, say improvements to the attack, which the
Wow.
version 2 had. So uh,
And this is Theo GG. You're talking about
yes,
the user from YouTube.
you do, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is this has been this is the second attack, and that had a lot of the improvements that or opportunities used that the first one did not. So uh,
Jeez.
yeah, we have to be very careful. And one of the other things it shows is that GitHub Actions are no longer, you could say, easy and trivial, and that you have to be very careful about how you set them up, because apparently even on if they run something on pull requests tests, that itself might be a problem. So yeah, we have to kind of look into where does that get us in the future? And yeah, it's going to be interesting, to see what will come next and how we can improve the security.
Wow.
Hmm.
Seems
Makes me
like
glad
the
that
initial way to go ahead, Kelly.
makes me glad that I've not updated my post hog library in quite a while.
What's post
Yeah.
hog used for?
It's analytics and
Okay.
sort of I guess, yeah. I mean, mostly analytics. There's quite a few other little features in there, but it's quite comprehensive. So, and
Yeah.
they've got a really generous free tier. So I use that.
Okay.
Yeah, they have also an amazing website, by the way. I really love how it's done, but it's a bit of a fire thing.
Wow.
So,
Well, I guess maybe I was going to say use fewer dependencies, but the problem is that I don't know. I don't know that I mean, even I saw in the article that even bun packages were affected by this, right?
yeah.
So when you try to bake them in, there's still some vulnerability. So not quite sure what the answer is there. What do we got next?
Something
Ooh.
from you, Alim.
Oh, okay, all right. Oh, yeah. So this. All right. Listen, you guys have been vibe coding, right? You've been using Cursor. You've been using, um, VS Code, and all sorts of other uh, apps that are out there. There's a new one now, and this is also VS Code based. This is called Anti-Gravity, and it's from Google. And apparently, it's the hottest thing on the block lately.
A lot of hype.
A lot of hype. Yeah. So, Storyteller, I think you said that it seems to be pretty good with Meteor.
That's what people in the forums were
Uh huh.
saying. I'm not sure if we have. No, we don't have the link here yet for that.
Okay.
But yeah, on the forums there is a thread that people say it's pretty good with with Meteor. Uh, Not so sure about that because interestingly enough, anti-gravity is built on top of or like uses or at least uses some of the code base from Windsurf, which is what I use,
Yep.
and that can be hit and miss depending on a lot of things. So it depends, I think, as
Yeah.
always.
I see from I see from the forums that Max Savin had mentioned that he had used it, tried it on some tests that would require knowledge of MeteorJS internals that are not documented APIs, and it got it
Mhm.
right on the first shot. So apparently, somewhat impressive. I guess you guys could try it out. I do want to give you a bit of a warning, though. And let me go back to not being a very good producer here. Haha. So one of the things that has happened also with anti-gravity, it's kind of a funny but not so funny story, right? Is somebody was actually using it. It's a Reddit user by the name of Deep Hyena 492, who claims that they were using it to build an application and turn it on, run it, and so on. And it had apparently had and this person apparently recorded this whole session. And so one of the things they wanted to do was when they were running the server, they wanted to restart the server. And when they did, they wanted it to also clear the cache because it was kind of building up, and they wanted that to happen. And they asked it to clear the cache on the restart. And anti-gravity, they're calling it, by the way, in this article, an agentic AI. Call it what you will, you're still vibing, right, on it. And asked it to restart and clear the cache, and it restarted and wiped out the entire hard drive, like erased it totally. Um, which was really surprising to the coder at the time. Um, was not really prepared for this. Mentioned that it did the wrong thing, and the AI apparently went, into a frenzy saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did this. This is a horrible thing," and apologize profusely for making that mistake. But in the end, it was unrecoverable. So it's terrific. I think it's terrific that these models are able to recognize that they've done something wrong and be really contrite about it emotionally. But that still begs the question, when it's great that it owns up to a mistake. I think we should all own up to our mistakes when we make them. It's just the intellectually honest thing to do. Not always the best thing to do. Sometimes, like if you've, knocked somebody off a cliff by accident and nobody's around. I'm not telling you that you should do this, but it might be better to keep your mouth shut. But if they're witnesses, it's probably better, to own up to it.
I mean, I guess at least the AI didn't try to lie like it generally does.
Right. So, now I'm having a problem breathing. God is taking control of me and telling me like this is not a good thing. But the question really becomes then, who's held accountable in a situation like this? Say, for instance, you wiped out a customer's production data. At the end of the day, is it the tool that you're using and the maker of the tool that's responsible, or are you responsible because you thought you prompted well, but you didn't prompt well enough that it took an action that caused some harm? So I think it's great that these tools are able to do as much as they do, but this little story reminds us that it's not omnipotent in the sense that it's going to do everything that you want correctly. So do you have a take on this, Kelly, as to, it took responsibility, right? So I don't know whether or not, like, if a lawyer was there, it would say, but you confessed, so you're to blame. And
how can how can you hold transistors responsible? Like, I don't like.
It's claiming responsibility, dude.
Yeah, but you can't hold that thing responsible. It's not like you can punish it. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? Change its weights? Like, I don't.
No, but there's a company behind it, right? There's somebody that provides that service, right?
Yeah. Well, so I think it's Alim, it's similar, like trying to hold your cat responsible and ate the treats you left, on the kitchen top.
I find it fascinating that you have this tool that is claiming responsibility for it, but its terms of service might actually limit that claim. Like, how does that proceed? I think that's a really interesting. I'm curious to see how this develops.
Have you guys actually used the anti-gravity?
Not yet. Not after I read that story.
So I've used it a little bit just to play with it, and
okay. Don't clear cache.
The hype around it is that, like, basically you set it and forget it, and it just like does things. And right, like when I first saw that, I was like, that was like a red flag. There's no guardrails, and there is. So when you set it up, there's you can choose what level of guardrails you want. But I think the default is like a medium, but I bet you a lot of people that, they just don't know are just going, they're clicking the highest level of, permissions and just letting it do things. And so, like, that's probably what happened there, which I find like astonishing, like, because it didn't stop it at the OS level from doing that or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that is kind of crazy. But
yeah, that's my biggest
too, right? So there is this, but can you imagine giving it your credit card?
No.
It's like, oh boy, anti-gravity going shopping.
Web search and fetch enabled.
Yeah.
Playwright.
It's like, sign up for all the services that you need in order to be, a fully agentic model. I wonder how much of that would be like, let's get the credit card out and just pay. you know?
I mean, if it's smart, it'll figure out how to do it without paying for anything.
Well, if it wants to optimize for lowest cost, right? But if that's not its optimization goal, and the goal is, just, do the thing I can do fastest, then it might be, what, we got to pay to get through these, there are tools out there that can do it, and they're saying we can do this. Let's sign up for it. Let's do that. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see again how this all plays out. I'm happy to let other people be the guinea pigs in this, and I'll watch. I'll make some popcorn and sit in the corner and keep my eye out for these stories. But yeah, I am planning on trying Agentic, but I'm probably going to do it in the sandbox. Not Agentic, anti-gravity, but I'll probably do it in the sandbox.
Yeah, for me, given how the Google AI adventures started, I'm very distrustful of anything that comes out of Google and will give it, either avoid it or will want, kind of a long time from the initial launch before I go to it, so that they can maybe try to fix it. Because so far, even like now with anti-gravity and everything, it's has been usually some sort of a disaster very soon after the launch. So,
do you trust Anthropic more?
Well, let's kind of talk about that, because Anthropic has bought Bun, which
Bought an
yes,
open source project? How do you do that?
well, there's a company behind it, similar like with Meteor. So Bun is another JS runtime, very super fast. And one of the reasons why I kind of was avoiding it was because I was like, well, okay, it's very similar to Meteor, to the hype, to actually how it's structured. And can I actually trust this to be around, say, in 4 years or so? Can I actually, trust it enough to be around and build business on it? And that's one thing that they admit, the band people. That was something that they did not have a good answer. They have raised money and they had like a runway for a couple of years, but they had no cash flow or anything like that, or just was like going out to pay for the developers. But they then found Anthropic, and Anthropic has been using Bun with their CLI tools and everything to bundle things, because that's one of the many uses of Bun. So they have been actually quite heavily invested in having Bun operating and running. And after some talk, they decided that they are going to acquire Bun, which is also funny because let's just say Anthropic has been kind of on this, saying that, it's over for web developers, our AI will be able to manage it, and then they go and buy a developer team. So that's one thing. Go ahead, Kelly.
Have you seen the Primogen's take on this?
Yeah.
No, has he given a take on it?
Yep, just watched it this morning. It was fairly insightful and I think quite thoughtful.
What are some of his highlights, if you remember them?
Yeah, so basically it's that, sort of the same thing that Jan was saying, where, everybody's saying that, developers are, the job is dead, and here we have Anthropic buying a development company, and
Right.
So developers aren't going away anytime soon,
But in this case, the developers are tool makers, right? And not necessarily end-use application makers. So is there a distinction that he's making there, or he's just saying broadly developers are still valuable?
Yeah, developers in general, because I mean, there may come a point when this, agentic AI is good enough that you don't have to hold its hand, and it doesn't make any mistakes. But I think we have a fair number of years before that becomes the case.
Yeah, I've watched both Primogen, and actually I watched Theo live when he gave
Okay.
his talks. One of the biggest worry is that ban is going to be become closed sourced, and which is right now not in the plans. And in case of, for example, Theo said that he would be one of the strongest vocal people against it, and he is actually one of the vocal people that says that for Anthropic to open source some of their tools and everything. For me personally, I don't. I like the cloud models and everything. I think they're like probably like one of the top three when it comes to
Yeah.
coding and other things. But I do have adversarial relationship with the company because was it 2 or 3 years ago when they kind of came out. I've signed up for, or not. I just like created an account and tried out a few times. Their website and everything, and then I was like, okay, I think this is it, I'm going to buy it. They banned my account, and they haven't let me
What were
on.
you doing?
I was just asking, like, I was like, okay, here's the document, I'm looking, tell me, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? And or I
Jan,
need
you
marketing.
cannot use their tool to say build me a replacement for this tool, because
That's
that's
not
going to
what I
get
did.
the people over there really upset that you're trying to replace them with their own creation.
No,
Here's
it wasn't. I wasn't like for their web thing that I used. I've used it because at that time I was like, oh, this this Anthropic thing can handle documents and everything to upload, which back then was still relatively new. So
Mhm.
that's what I use it for back then. So I'm not aware what kind of thing in TOS I violated, and they won't tell me. So
here you are, you have you're doing just everyday things. They're banning your account, but they allow major cyber attacks to be executed for long periods of time using
yeah,
their models.
It's a little crazy. It's a little crazy, but hey, I mean, look, I think that there is something to be said, and I think we agree that open source projects, um, suffer from having appropriate financial resources, and you've got a company that's well resourced behind it now. I think this gives it a lot of, there's a lot of promise, provided that they find it valuable, and they continue to give it money, feed the beast, so to speak. So that's going to be interesting.
yeah,
What I think is going to be interesting is to see how this all plays out, in the sense that that many of these um, tools scrape the web or go across the web, and basically they're taking traffic. That's at least what the media companies are concerned with, is that instead of going to the source websites to read and to consume information, it's getting summarized and then spit out, you know, much earlier upstream by these aggregators, and then that has a downstream effect on the financial viability of these other sites that are creating content that gets consumed. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
yeah. I don't think there will be like any short-term changes. We'll see about the long term, but I think this has definitely ban has become more interesting for me.
Yeah.
Not
Over
just because
Dino?
of always over Dino ban was more interesting.
Really?
I've
Yeah,
never had any interest in Dino whatsoever. I don't know why, but there was Node, and Dino never provided anything for me that I really wanted, I guess. I don't know.
yeah.
Huh.
Same thing, but I also find it interesting because now when it's like under Anthropic,
Yeah.
there is potential that there will be some interesting maybe integration with the AI tools in general. The question remains if it will remain kind of linked to Anthropic, or but it like already has been helping other AI companies as
Sure.
well. So that is an interesting thing. The biggest
Well, the
worries
ethics.
is if the person behind it, if he gets now that he has access to all this cool toys around Anthropic if he just doesn't like suddenly goes, oh, this looks interesting, let me go there, because the founder behind Bun has been like really has been like contributing every day, and you can actually point in his GitHub comment graph when he had the talk with Anthropic and decided to get acquired. So that's like also like a big worry for him to stay focused.
Well, again, as you said, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out at the end. Well, let's see where we are in the program now. So, guys, listen, if you've been lurking around and you haven't had a chance to yet, you might want to hit that subscribe button and join us. If you hit the notification button that's next to it, the little bell, it'll let you know when we actually have an episode that comes up or that's planned to come up. We've been taking breaks here and there. So we do this program every Thursday recently. We might go back to Fridays. I'm not sure yet. But because we've also been taking breaks, sometimes it's valuable to have the notification button set. So that way, when we're not on a regular cadence and you can expect, and you're not sure, that we're going to come this Thursday or next Thursday, whenever it might be, the notification bell is going to let you know when the next thing is scheduled. So that'll save you from disappointment. All right. And with that, I think we're going to go into the Meteor specific news. Do we have a lot this time around?
No, we actually, well, depends. We have a few stories. So
okay.
First story we have is that Meteor 3.4 is moving into the next stage, which is the release candidate stage. The RC1 has been released for testing. So if you've been holding back, then now is the time to give it a try and report back to Nacho what you can find. We have a really improved building system, so there might be some hiccups given how massive that change is. And now let's kind of talk. We've mentioned it last time a little bit that there has been, Kelly, you have been doing the type model package with Zod validation and pretty much, well, tell us. For my thing, it's like, collection to new version or new take. Why did you build this when we have collection 2 and all the other validations in Meteor already?
Yeah, so honestly, for the longest time, I was searching for a way to basically have collection 2 and simple schema type of developer experience, but with more modern and more broad ecosystem packages, such as Zod. And my biggest complaint with Meteor and its current implementation of the collection is that there's certain instances where your types lie to you. And so, like, if you have a field projection and you only want a certain, 2 different fields, and then you query your collection using that code, then the type that is returned from that has all of the fields in it, and it's a lie. And so when your editor is telling you, that you have all these fields available, but you don't, then you as the developer are going, wait, what's going on? The IDE is telling me that, there's the profile key and the username and all these other keys as well, but it's erroring out and telling me that that's not available. And so, when your types lie to you, that makes, development harder. And so for the longest time, I was looking for something to change that. And I stumbled across the Jolly Roger project by Evan Broder. And that basically had all the stuff that I needed, but it was, packaged into a project and not into packages for Meteor. And so with his permission, I pulled all of that code out and then started modifying it quite a bit to provide isomorphic database operations, because I think that's one of the things that drew me to Meteor in the beginning the most heavily, was that like I can run my code on the client and have it be executed in a safe manner. And previously Collection 2 and Simple Schema had provided that level of developer experience for me. But with moving towards more TypeScript based development, those two worlds kind of clashed. And so, that's where this was sort of born.
So interesting. So let's see. So people should use that over Collection 2 new projects, you're saying?
Not necessarily. I think it comes down to preference. There's a lot of people that still they do not want to use TypeScript. Now you can still use this without using TypeScript, and there may be benefits as well. I've included JSDoc comments with this as well. So I've not validated that this works, but it could that could be helpful as well. But in the end, it comes down to preference. I mean, so this for me is it's a safety mechanism. It's like a seatbelt or a airbag, and so this provides something for me that I was missing. But some people may get in the car and not wear their seatbelt, and that's fine too. That's their preference. And so, if you like Collection 2 and Simple Schema and that's working for you, that's perfectly fine. One of the other things, though, that this does provide that that Simple Schema does not provide and Collection 2 do not provide, and this is in the works, but it should be pushed out soon, is JSON schemas that are attached to your MongoDB. And so it's a database level operation for validating your documents. And so that's another level of safety on there as well. So it comes down to preference, but if it meets your needs, then use it. If not, then stick with what you got now.
Sounds great. So as for the JSON schema, that is something that, just to clarify, that's your planning, or that's already included? I'm trying to
That is not currently included, and I had planned on including it in the 1.0 release, but I don't know. I think it just slipped my mind, and so that's currently in the works now.
Awesome. So we can expect 2.0 soon or soonish?
Honestly, I think there's no major breaking changes with that, and so it might just be a 1.1 release.
Sounds great. Anything else you want to add to this, or on this topic in general?
I mean, I can't think of anything specifically. This for me is a huge sort of developer experience upgrade. But yeah, I can't think of anything that is above and beyond that.
All right. So people give it a try. I'll take a look on it. And another thing that especially Blaze people should, take a look on is this new pull request from William and Race, which in essence adds error boundaries, for at least from my understanding, to Blaze, which is
Yes.
pretty cool, and also better, handles the errors better if something crashes in Blaze and displays a proper message. And you can also disable it in production if you don't want it. And TypeScript, and TypeScript is included definitions in there, so that looks like a very interesting addition to Blaze. That's probably long overdue. So give it a look. Comment on it if you to kind of get it in faster. So some good news for Blaze.
So let me ask you something. Typically, I think the thing that it's resolving is that when your app crashes, you just get this kind of white screen, no feedback. But are we going to actually see the errors in that? And then, of course, are our customers going to see that, or is this only in debug mode? Do we know how this works?
So there it so from the PR, it adds error badge in the bottom left corner showing error count.
Mm-hmm.
Adds a model that details the error with the stack trace, and implements a grace of failure. That's why I said error boundary like, with inline placeholder for the missing, for example, missing templates or whatever else is happening. Adds error duplication to prevent duplicate entries, integrates with HMR, auto cleans errors when templates are fixed, which is pretty nice. We don't have to manually reload. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Adds accessibility features for keyboard navigation. It's auto disabled in production, so if there's some
Okay.
catastrophic things that happens in production, it still uses the old behavior, and it adds the TypeScript definitions there. Let me actually
So I think
quickly.
that addresses my concern, right? So the thing is, if it's a production build that's out there, your customers are not gonna see this. If somebody's trying to do something to, figure out the weaknesses in your application so that they could try to, you know, um, find vulnerabilities, it's they're not gonna be able to do that.
Yeah. So here it
Okay.
says, before the change, if there's like an error, just blank screen.
Yeah.
After a change, you have, Blazor, missing template what,
Right.
and it gives you the stack trace, which also nice design as well to it.
Very reminiscent of Next.js.
I think we know where the inspiration came from then.
Mhm.
You have to when you say that you have to spit.
Honestly, it's a nice experience though. So I'm sort of glad that it come to Blaze.
Absolutely. Well,
I'm
it's
not
the
saying I'm
whole.
not saying that it's not good. I'm just saying when the words that begin with N come to your mouth, you know, just
Eh,
turn your head and spit, and then continue the conversation.
some people may say that about Meteor.
Ooh.
Well, speaking of other Meteor stuff, it's the winter season, or the winter holiday season is approaching, and with that, we've kind of jumping off. Some companies don't take a break and they go straight from Cyber Monday, Black Friday, straight into here is the Christmas discounts. And as usual, we do have the holiday offer for Galaxy, which you can save 30% on the Meteor hosting on Galaxy. So you kind of pull in how much you are spending right now, all some of your details, uh, and then they will kind of check your setup, and will come back to you how much they can give you a discount. So that's the end of the year discount happening on Galaxy. So if you have something that's that you don't constantly scale up and down, something that's kind of stable deployment, then this is perfect the way how to save some money on that, because it's kind of annual subscription from that. I'm using that for my stuff, so go get it. I will be getting that in the next few days as well. Actually, probably a week, because I have a festival this weekend. And
Right.
finally, a reminder here is that we do have the Impact Conference videos coming out right now or next week. We do have from Abigail Watson her update on the medical, or what was originally the medical Meteor. It has advanced a lot, so catch it next Tuesday. And I think that's the last major video that we are publishing. Everything else should be already on there. This link is going to take you to the playlist so you can catch up on the conference. And that brings us
Pretty
to
awesome.
the topic.
That was pretty awesome. Thank you so much, by the way. And thanks for all the work you've done on Impact. I think the folks that have been involved over the years would probably agree with me that this is one of the most important events that we have every year for MeteorJS. And I'm glad that you keep putting it on, because we end up getting this terrific response from people that are in the field, that are doing things with it and sharing their knowledge and their skills with everyone else. So that's pretty cool.
Well, thank you.
Listen, I got to tell you, I ran into this story this week that made me think a little bit. And one of the things that always comes back to me is we talk about what makes the MeteorJS ecosystem experience great. And one of the things that has mentioned over and over again is community support, people's interaction with the community. I think that's been a strength in the past. I don't know how effective that is anymore, because the community has been shrinking, and the folks that are involved, we lose people from time to time. So there's a lot of reliance, I think, on the documentation that's out there. And I was looking at the documentation again recently, and I wasn't quite sure where things are now. I think I told you a couple of weeks back that I was planning on starting to build things again with Meteor, and I was going to go through my process. So, I'm working with that, and I ran into this document, this post by John Jago, who has this article on great documentation. He tries to rank, like, what is it that makes great open source documentation, and he focuses on two projects, ESBuild and Redis, in this post. So if you haven't had a chance to see this post, go take a look at it, and we have a link for it someplace. I guess we'll get it to you
right here.
That's right. So let me just pop that up real quick. All right. Now, what you're going to notice, by the way, is that this particular post is not new. It's been out for about a year plus, I think. When was it? Let's take a look again at it.
23rd March 2024.
2024 or 2023?
2024.
2024, right. So it's, again, as I said before, it's not brand new, but the points I think he makes are really interesting. One of the things he says is through, and I'll take a quote here from the article. It says, through their readmes, change logs, architecture documents, and code comments, both projects, we're talking about ESBuild and Redis, explain their design in such a way that someone new to the code base can understand where things are, how things are done, and why they're done that way. And I think those sort of guiding statements, where they are, how they're done, and why they're done that way, is really critical in terms of understanding the frame that he comes to looking at what is, to him, great open source documentation. So I like this because, as I may have mentioned, I don't know what I said a couple of minutes ago, because my short-term memory is disappearing. But what I like about this is that it is opinionated. It does have a frame that he's talking from, and I agree with it. And in a lot of ways, this is we work with an opinionated framework, right? Or an opinionated platform. I think it's a platform, not a framework. And we make some decisions along the way. We say, these are the things we're going to do. These are the things we're not going to do. These are the things we're going to be. These are the things we're not going to be. So I think coming and doing his analysis from that point of view marries well with this project. So what I want to do is have a discussion here about how much or how well does MeteorJS as a project measure against this type of evaluation. And I'm going to give some guidance on the document. One of the things that he says about documentation is it should say how the document, how the software is used, and also when to use it and when not to use it. So I think that there is use cases as to when it makes sense to use something. Let's put MeteorJS there, and when it makes sense to move on. So I think that's really interesting. I'm going to illustrate a couple of points here on the README that he talks about, that what he likes about these READMEs. They're short and punchy. They don't cram everything in. They link out to other locations for more detailed information on things like getting started, where you find API documentation, and so on. For ES Build, the focus of the documentation is on getting the user started and oriented. And for Redis, it's not just that, but it also includes like, how do you contribute to the project? So they have two slightly different variations, but they overlap, right? One of the things I really like and I saw in the README, and he also comments on, is the use of diagrams to illustrate flows and concepts to supplement and to complement the text explanations of what's going on with something that people can actually see and hopefully simplify a very complex abstraction into something tangible that they can look at. So those are great. I see something about architecture overview here.
Yeah.
Jan, you've got your name next to it. So do you want to pop in here?
Yeah, I think probably a bit later once we open it up to
Okay.
So let's let you finish.
And then the other thing that they have here are something that MeteorJS used to have, which are some design principles that they're stated declaratively. They take a stand, and it shapes the ideas that follow in terms of how the software is built. MeteorJS used to have these 7 principles, if you remember, in the beginning, as to what it was and how it was built and how it was, and how it would interact with data and the world. In both of these cases, Redis has a manifesto that is sort of its guiding principles in a sense. And then there, Evan has, and by the way, it should also be said that ES Build, one of the principal people behind it is Evan Yu, and Evan Yu is one of the people that worked on MeteorJS in the very, very early days. So there's something there. So I do want to mention something though. In looking into the Redis documentation that he talks about, and some of the things that he thought were really great, which is internals and source code layouts are declared and explained in the current documentation on the Redis GitHub. That documentation has changed. That material is no longer there. You can find it in a cloned or a forked version of the documentation from a few years ago, but that's no longer true. So, excuse me, some of that documentation has changed. The change logs are also one of the places where he points out where ES Build is really, really different from a lot of other projects. Typically with the change log, you might mention what the change is. In the case of MeteorJS, we have sort of 1 or 2 lines that might explain what the change is, and then a link to the GitHub discussion that goes into all the details behind it. But when you take a look at the ES Build stuff, they not only mention what it is, they go into great detail about what that change is. And then they'll even put code in there demonstrating like what the change, how the change manifests in the code that you're going to actually write and execute. And it might to some people be overkill, but what it does, and I guess the benefit of it, is you can read the change log and see entirely what the change is and the consequence and how it's going to manifest without having to actually go to other documentation and then try to figure it out either through looking at the code comparisons to see what those changes are and then figure out for yourself what the impact is going to be on the code that you write. So that was something I thought was a really interesting point that he makes there. And then on code comments, now in Redis, the thing to remember in Redis is that most of the code for Redis is written in C, and C is not a very expressive language. So there is a case to be made for having more detailed comments in C code, but even there is code that's there that I'm going to just try to share this for a second, and let me see if I could just kind of do that. I'm going to hijack you for a minute here.
Sure.
Just to get to this this particular one that I've got, and here it is, Redis. Okay. So in this bit of Redis code that's here, all right, so this is the header for it, the header comment. But then, in this in the enums, they give a single line explanation of what each of these are, because again, not tremendously expressive. But then they have a state machine diagram as a comment in here explaining how all of these things work together. And that is not something that you typically see, for instance, in comments in code. The level of effort that they're making in here to be as communicative as possible of how these things work together and the ideas behind it, I think is exceptional. So anyway, I'm going to stop sharing this so that, Jan, you could share the main presentation again.
Yes.
All right, there we go. So having said all of that about this, and I think you both have read the article, what do you think? I mean, where does my thought is I would love him to come and take a look. Now, he said he looked at a bunch of others and he picked these two out of many really good examples. So he's not saying that these are the best examples for everything. He's saying these are two exceptional examples out of many really good examples out there. And I'm curious to hear from him what his thoughts might be with regard to MeteorJS and the documentation we have right now. What are your thoughts? I mean, in the past, one of the things I think that's been standout for MeteorJS has been the Meteor guide, right? Mm-hmm. I looked at the guide recently. I'm not thrilled anymore with it in its current configuration. But give me your thoughts. How do we rank relative to some of these examples here? Where can we be better, and where do we excel? Do you have some ideas?
So I think the first thing that I've kind of noticed is that it has been very high focus on the initial README in that article, and kind of I think in a way it felt to me like kind of all the other like the rest of the resources weren't that important. And now I'm kind of sharing here. This is the initial Meteor README, which I think really
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it hits all his points. It points to all the other resources. One big thing is, as you said, the guide is still like not really that up to date, but what's happening, it's actually being slowly merged into the main documentation, which has had a bit of a change. And I think it definitely can get better. I think this the core, with all the information is there. Interestingly, what is kind of the connection between the code and the documentation is that a lot of the JS docs are actually snippets that you can then that are then in the documentation. So if you look here at the API and the create user, then this entire part here on the top
Hmm.
is directly imported from the code. So if there is, let's see if I can find it. Another, yeah. So here we have like more detailed summary. So that is at the top of the function. So kind of goes, hand in hand. Documented in code, seeing
Yeah.
that in the documentation. Plus, here you can see there's a lot of additional explainer. One
Mhm.
thing, as you noted, as you've seen in the notes, is what we are kind of missing is the description for the developers who want to develop Meteor itself. The core description, the diagrams of where is what, and that's kind of a bit of a loss in knowledge, and that's also going to something that's going to be changing now with Meteor 3.4 and going forward. So that's a bit in flux. And you were also mentioned the 7 principle of Meteor, which is something I think that needs to be potentially either re-implemented or renegotiated, because given
Mhm.
how kind of Meteor change over the time, then
Yeah.
that's something that needs to be looked at. You could
Yeah.
say so. And that's actually one of the principles that were kind of also like why I liked Meteor, because it was opinionated in that way, and then there was kind of push to not be opinionated as much, at least when it comes to the front end. So uh, kind of suffers from that. But I think
But the opinion,
documentation wise, go ahead.
yeah, but the opinion can still be, something. It could be, look, we started with Blaze, but it could very well be that the opinion is that Meteor platform itself should be welcoming to any front end or any, we can phrase it, but it
Yeah.
might just be a different design decision that we now say this is what Meteor is about, right? I think
Yeah,
I think
well,
the
Alim,
point.
that's a different discussion. I don't want to get into that. We've touched on that multiple times. I kind of want to stick with the article. So,
Yeah, I am sticking with the article. I'm sticking with the
sorry,
article in the sense that the point that they're making is that the design decisions behind the platform, behind the tool, are declared up front.
which currently they are not in Meteor documentation.
Right.
So that can lead to a lot of additional uh, confusion. So those are kind of like my observation in that manner.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it to Kelly to now have the microphone.
Yeah. Honestly, I think Meteor, I would say let's rank it at a 6. It's really fair documentation.
Mhm.
I think there's lots of areas of improvement. One of which I believe is that the code examples are just bare bones skeleton examples, and it doesn't provide enough background and depth for a lot of things. Sometimes I go and I'm looking. The other thing is there's nothing really internal documented, and sometimes when you're developing something and there's something that you want to do that exists
Mhm.
that could be useful to your code, but you can't find it and you have to go search through the code base, and it's not necessarily like a private API, but it's something that's basically used mostly internally but is exposed
Yeah.
externally.
Like
And
some of the less well-known settings, for instance.
mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think
I
we
mean,
had that discussion.
this is not to like knock a Meteor, right? It's like
No,
it's
not at all.
where do we rank, and then where can we improve and be better, right? The point, by the way, that the article makes is this is not documentation taken whole. This is documentation looked at from the point of view of somebody coming in new, being able to, grok what's going on with the thing that you have, and then figure out how to get started as quickly as possible. That's I believe the frame that the article starts with, right? And so, that getting started document, the README, and so on are really important in order to do that. And then, of course, the things that help is being able to look at the change log and figure out, well, these changes that are happening, what are they doing? I think that's where he's coming from with this. So it's not, documentation taking whole. They didn't spend a lot of time talking about API documentation, which I think there's been a lot of work done to make our API documentation much better and much more usable. And Storyteller, I think your point being that also that the documentation itself that describes what those APIs are in the JS docs, is a good point too, to the improvements that have been made to include that information with code, right? So there's that. What about the issue, or the point that's made with diagrams? What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel that we don't really have good conceptual diagrams in the Meteor documentation, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right places.
I would say you're correct.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be the argument that those aren't necessarily needed, but I think that in a lot of cases they could be very useful. And so that's definitely an area that could be improved upon. Of course, that's probably a huge effort, getting those in order and, adding that to the documentation. So small team like Meteor, that's
yeah. I do think that there were some diagrams that were created very, very early on in the early days of Meteor.
Yes.
JS, that described what the architecture looked like. The question I have is, as Meteor has evolved over the years, as MeteorJS has evolved over the years, whether or not that is a good starting point still for describing what the platform looks like, and how much more effort would it take to modify those diagrams to reflect the true state of things.
Yeah, I think a lot of those diagrams, I don't remember specifically, but I think a lot of them came that I saw were coming from really good sort of teachers that were in the community in the beginning. Chris Mather, Arunoda, people like that were doing blog articles and things like that, and they those were teaching tools for them.
Sure. Do you see anything wrong with adopting them, though, if they're a fairly accurate, or an accurate, or let me put that, a good representation of the paradigm, that the documentation shouldn't try to incorporate those, even though it's created by the community?
No, not at all. I think that's definitely a good idea. I mean, especially if somebody in the community is updating documentation themselves and they want to do that thing, and sort of take it off the plate of Meteor development team. So, because
I think I've seen, and correct me, Storyteller, if I'm wrong here, but I think Radoslav has done some diagrams recently that have shown up either in his writing or in his slides.
Yeah, I believe that's the case. Plus, I think even especially with the infrastructure, a lot of the old ones are still accurate, especially the high level ones. It's infrastructure does not change so often. It might be a bit different with Meteor 3.4, but overall, I think that's something that kind of needs to be dug up from the archives and reused.
Yeah. I take your point, by the way, Kelly, if you've been in it for a while, but I think if you take the viewpoint of that the author has here with, coming to it for the first time and trying to get a conceptual grasp, that I believe that can be very beneficial.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. What other ideas or thoughts or feedback did you guys have from this article when you were looking at it? Did you feel that it was opinionated in a bad way um, or in a deficient way?
I thought it was fair.
Yeah. Changelog is another interesting aspect because back in the days, changelogs used to be just in the changelog.md file, and today we use
Yeah.
the release process in a lot of repositories on GitHub. Meteor 1 is still kind of tied to changelog file and the documentation. So
Okay.
that might be something to consider for improvement, to kind of start using the uh, GitHub release feature,
Yeah.
because we do have the tags, so it's not a big issue. But other than that, like, when it comes to the change logs, the way that they are described here, that's exactly how it's being used, in Meteor to this day. So I think the change logs are uh, well maintained in Meteor.
Hmm. I did look at the Meteor changelog um, when I was reviewing this, and again, as I said before, most of the entries that I see are single line entries with a link over to the GitHub discussion. So if I go to the Meteor project, hang on. And
It's
I'm
not
not saying,
it's
I
not
mean,
to
the
discussion,
benefit.
it's to the PRs, Alim,
Oh, I'm
most of the
sorry, to the
time.
pull request. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
So it depends a lot of because it's a common practice to refer where does the change came from. So if somebody wants to
Hmm.
deep dive into that, into details, why those decisions were made, and
Yes,
or just see the code itself separate from everything else, that's where they go. um, and sometimes it's but that's usually rare. That's usually like, so the major big features, it's go to this PR for more details, or here is an article for the full migrations. That's like an additional thing. If there's like more complex migration that affects everybody, instead of some like small package, then there is going to be additional migration article and page related to that.
I agree. I think the point is that's being made here is that this is, this is an unusual level of detail, right? That's being put into these change logs, and it's something that he thinks makes it easier for. And the point that was made was that you don't have to leave that part of the change log in order to get information about what actual change was. So, I don't know whether or not this is a practice that other places do, but certainly I think the point is that you can get all the information in just that one spot.
Well, that's how, kind of the top level change logs are, as you see here, and I think for the most part, Meteor follows that. So
Okay, can you show me an example? Because I was looking and I didn't see it. That's why I was curious.
so let me find the. So if we go back, here we have the Meteor 3 migration. That one is more involved, so it has a lot of those stuffs, a lot of those things. And let me find the most recent change logs. For example, books. Things changed around the changelog with version 3. So just a moment. It's in. Just a moment. Let me find that up.
Excuse me, because when I go to on the website, if I'm not at the GitHub, on the website, it's docsmeteor.com/history, right? that gives me the change log.
Yeah.
And then what I have is I have, single line references, and a link to the what you would call it.
So yeah, here you have, okay, so we do it a little bit differently. So you have what has changed, the link to the pull request, and then you have section breaking changes, which reference what has changed and what you need to do to migrate. So that's the migration step over here. So that's for the latest 3.3 something, 3.3.1. So that's that is the current format that we use using Meteor. So in a way, if you don't really care about, you only care about what do I need to change, then you have that in one concise section.
Right, but my point is I don't see anything here that is as expressive as what you get in the changelog at ES Build. I'm not, again, the thing is, obviously projects are going to choose the way they work with things, and I guess it also depends on just how much is going on, because if it's many changes that are happening with a given distribution, then being as expressive as ES Build is, can be overwhelming, right? To have all of that show up.
Yeah, well, also a lot of the items, especially in Meteor, but it's just like upgrade to Node 22, upgrade to Mongo driver to version 6, upgrade to Express v5. There isn't like really much else to add to that, unless there is some breaking change that is related to that, or just like that. So that's also, and especially with ES Build, all the changes they made have a lot of impact. So for their need to be more expressive, makes more sense.
So it really depends on what the change is and how the impact is going to be on the developer. That defines how expressive it's going to need to be. And then of course the question is, where do you put that? Is it directly in the changelog, or is it elsewhere? So if you were going to make that decision, where would you put it, you think?
It depends. I would say, for example, the migration to version 3, that's a lot of things that you need to cover, and you also need to cover some theory as well. So that I think that is properly in its own dedicated articles, while at the same time, some things you can just put like a paragraph in the breaking changes, and that's enough. And so that's kind of how I see it. But also I kind of want to say that kind of compare this to our change logs to, for example, change log to Node.js. They just do a few notable changes that here can be, I would say definitely might sometimes require much more, and then they have just list of comments pretty much, which really, they have this, this is just a dog, this is for this package. But unless like you are really into that, it's just that I would say this is totally overwhelming, and unless you know what you're looking at and how to navigate this, you will be like, I'm out, I'm just going to read the article, somebody who can translate this to me.
So like there's a balance you got to make with this then.
It seems like they're just using their change log as a Git log.
Well, that's where a lot of the Git commit standards that you put feed and other descriptions, that's where it came from. That's instead of actually looking at the changes and describing what has changed, we just run a command that's going to compile this together for you, and here you go.
All right.
So that's
are there other things in documentation that you would say good projects do? And we could point to some of those practices in MeteorJS, for instance.
Let's see. There was, I think the current Meteor documentation is a little bit more difficult to navigate around. So I think that's one
Mhm.
big improvement that can be made. Search is sometimes an issue, but I think that's mostly got resolved. I'm trying to think. There was a project, and I'm probably going to get it wrong. That's really nice documentation. It was around accounts and authentications, and I am right now completely blanking on its name, or I'm mistaken with some other ones, because there's quite a few ones. So
I think there's been some discussion in the past as to, do we need both the docs and the guide? And I think the guide was always one of those tools that made it really, I don't want to say easy, but it made it easier to navigate and figure out how to get started with MeteorJS. And I think that that was one of those practices. Meteor did that before a lot of other projects were doing it, and I think that made it a real standout. And it's certainly something I think that the project needs to keep with. Kelly,
yes.
you got a thought on that?
I mean, as far as the guide, I was never honestly a fan.
Good. I'm glad that I got the other opinion.
Yeah, I really enjoyed because I'm a developer that has a little bit experience.
Mhm.
The guide may not be, I may not be the guide's target audience.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I felt like the guide sort of brought like fragmentation, at least for me. And there'd be things that would link out to it that were missing and would drive me crazy. So, yeah, honestly, I always loved the just the plain Meteor docs. That's where I would always go because the guide was there was just too much to it.
Okay.
Yeah, the guide was originally a response to people who demanded, how do I scale? How do I, how do I get from my small application to corporate behemoth? And they just wanted to kind of, see it. And it was also bit of a kind of stamp of approval on certain community packages, how to do things. But it was mostly, I think, to quiet the voices about, you don't tell us how to scale Meteor. And it was like, okay, here's the guide. Here you do it if you don't
So
know how to do it yourself.
you saw it as a sort of a best practices
Yeah.
compendium.
More of a hand holding, maybe.
Yeah, as well.
I got to tell you, sometimes it feels nice to have your hand held. You feel loved. You feel like you belong.
That's developer experience, I guess.
Yeah. I found the documentation. This is for Better Auth, and I really love. It's much more easier, but I really love the navigation that they have here. We have the different concepts, and they have really nicely separated. And I think it's very easy to find what you are looking for.
Yeah.
So that is what I really love about their documentation, and I would like if we could have more of that in the Meteor documentation as well.
Very nice.
So
well, I guess there are lots of examples out there that we can look at to see for where we might be able to improve. I'm kind of curious to see if anybody in the chat has an opinion on this. I know that that Küster was in the chat before, and Simon was there. Hey guys, so I want to say hello to you guys. I didn't want to ignore you, but I don't know if they have an opinion. So if you have an opinion and you have some thoughts about, you know, how things can be even better, or if you love it the way it is, mention that in the comments and let us know. We read the comments when people write them, and we do respond to them. So there's that. And is there anything else that we want to cover before we sign off for today? I think we're coming to the end of this, right?
Yes, I think
I feel
I've
like
exhausted my my points.
The horse has been dead for a while, and we've been just beating the crap out of it, you know. So, all right. So, where do we want to go from here? What do we have next?
Just wave and smile.
All right, folks. Jan, what do you think? Are we going to be able to do an episode next week? I know that Lori is interested in coming on. We might do.
I should be fine next week. So the week after that might be a bit difficult, or the holiday 2 weeks. So
there is some talk about possibly doing a pre-recording and then streaming and chatting while the recordings play back. So we might not be really live the next time we do this, just because of everybody's holiday schedules. We might want to explore and see whether or not we can have these conversations, get them recorded, get them up, and then spend more time in the chat room with you guys who are watching live. So that is a thought. But with that, I think we're going to commit to coming back here next Thursday. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And until then, guys, listen, thank you for joining us again. You all have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Ciao.
Thanks for having me, guys.